Thank you everyone for joining us for the webinar. This complimentary presentation is brought to you by eDynamic. Speakers for today's presentation are Abhiraj Banerjee, Digital Solutions for Insurance Director at eDynamic, and Neha Agarwal, Senior Digital Solutions Expert for Insurance at eDynamic. I'll begin with a quick introduction to the presenters. With over 15 years of experience in marketing, digital solutions, and customer acquisition across North America, EMEA, ANZ regions, Abhiraj has led digital solutions engagements with insurers such as Aviva, New York Life, Bupa, Aegon, Liberty Mutual, and many others. Neha is a seasoned digital solution consultant with extensive experience across digital strategy assessment, vendor selection, and business development. She has worked with over 20 Fortune 100s in helping them transform their digital strategy. In today's presentation, we'll talk about the approach and the insights needed to create a robust engagement marketing strategy for your customer lifecycle. At the conclusion of the presentation, we'll have question and answer sessions. And now, over to Abhiraj from eDynamic.
Thank you. A big hello to everybody who's joined in for this session today, and we thank you for the interest in our webinar sessions. It's your ongoing interest and curiosity that basically helps us drive, these thought leadership sessions, and we welcome an opportunity to talk to you again today. Just to set a quick agenda for today's session, we'll walk you through a quick reckoner about eDynamic and a bit about our insurance practice, and then we'll talk about some key customer acquisition trends centered around insurance, how they're impacting digital, how they're impacting better engagement with consumers in the future, and how these trends could basically be taken by insurers and worked to their advantage in terms of creating new opportunities for improvement. Our next section will focus on some perspectives that we have around potential improvements and areas of opportunity for insurers, and we'll talk about several things here that might be of interest to you that will help you improve customer acquisition and help you improve how you take customers through their journey of buying life cycles. Finally, we'll talk about some tips, some strategies, and some insights that will help in terms of engagement and acquisition, how insurers can take one step at a time and try and get to where we call optimal engagement, or get to a stage where you can truly engage with your prospects and customers towards better revenue. eDynamic is a digital solutions firm. We are specialists in providing strategic customer lifecycle marketing, channel enablement, and collaboration solutions for insurers. We are driven by our strategic insights and knowledge of the industry and the vertical, and we complement that with our strong experience design expertise and our knowledge and expertise around contemporary digital marketing platforms. We've done a tremendous amount of work for insurers across life, health, annuities, specialty, property, and casualty. More than 10 years of experience in this vertical, and a lot of customers that have been working with us, and some of those customers include Liberty Mutual, New York Life, Aviva, Tokyo, Bupa, and our experience is truly global. We've worked across several geographies, including North America, Southeast Asia, Europe, Middle East, and other regions. Some of our differentiators include our offerings for insurance. Customer acquisition marketing is what we're going to be talking about today, and how we really look at this space and how it can benefit insurers to look at what engagement can truly do for them. We also focus on channel enablement and empowerment solutions, so we have offerings around agent empowerment solutions as well. A quick look at our service portfolio around insurance, and we work with different stakeholders, marketing, operations, lines of business users, and IT as well. And we work across the spectrum of digital, from strategy to marketing to demand generation, analytics, and other specialized services like mobility, gamification, and social platforms. Some of our representative customers in insurance, like I said, we have a broad cross-section of customers in different types of segments within insurance, and we've offered a variety of solutions and services to them over the years. Our customer acquisition offering is what truly is the core of engagement marketing, the concept in itself, and how it helps in acquiring better demand as far as insurers are concerned. And our offering, straddles across different stages of customer acquisition, starting with demand creation, where we help you with defining your life cycles for buying, understanding your audience better, looking at how you can get better data to run programs and campaigns, enrichment of data. We put together an entire strategy around that, and then we help you with content and experience upgrades for your digital assets, whether it's websites, tablets, or mobile. And then we also look at how we use marketing tools like marketing automation for your entire demand generation programs. The next step is about lead qualification and scoring, and we have, it's a very important activity, and talking a bit more about that later on. But this is entirely about how you take that demand, nurture it, and move it to the next stage. And finally, lead distribution. A lot of insurers are working with agents, distributors, captive teams, and different kind of channels towards marketing and sales. And our distribution, different kinds of distribution models really allow you to have a seamless transition from carriers to your producers and captive teams. So we have this entire offering around acquisition that truly can help insurers. I'll quickly move to the key customer acquisition trends, wherein we talk about some significant trends in the industry, and I'd like to invite my colleague Neha to speak to this section of the webinar today. Neha, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Abhiraj, and welcome everyone. So to set some context before I jump into the trends, in 2012, Google published a fantastic book which basically talked about how digital consumers made decisions in what they refer to as the zero moment of truth. The zero moment of truth is nothing but something that occurs before a consumer comes in contact with your product or service. And contrary to the traditional models, it is this zero moment of truth where the overall online research and comparison happens for taking decision before a purchase, whether it's on the web, social, email, or mobile. It's here where brand impressions are formed, and hence, this is where a chasm is created, which is a chasm, or let's say an opportunity for marketers today, which are increasingly being exploited in industries all across, and insurance is no different. This is further substantiated by some facts that you see on the slide. An interesting fact that came up, to light by E&Y was that even though insurance continues to be bought primarily through the agent channel, but 63% of these consumers actually research these products online before making the purchase. Now, this is primarily because the consumer has become more informed, yes, and has access to technology and internet more than before. But at the end of the day, insurance is a complex product and involves money, which creates a need for that personalized interaction and more of a relationship and trust during the purchase phase. But there's still a lot of research that has started happening before even they get in touch with the agent channel. Now, this may be synonymous with with any important purchase that this consumer may be making, right? So when we buy a car, we do all the research online, we compare, different cars together, we read reviews, but eventually we end up going to a local auto dealership to actually purchase, the car that we want. Now this trend is not only true for acquisition, but for retention as well. Now because of easy access to policy comparison sites and aggregators and internet, so to say, the customer attrition has also become very, become a very big problem in insurance, right? So some studies have also shown that marketers are increasingly, laying more effort in this area, and which is paying more results as well. So there are studies which show that $1 paid towards customer retention increases profits far more than $5 spent on customer acquisition in this space. Also, from a conversion perspective, digital can contribute to your overall revenue as well. Now, research shows that simply by improving your quote function by 50%, the overall conversion can go up by 15%. And ironically, quote and policy information have been most difficult tasks to be built online by insurers as well. So this is one report by JD Power Rankings, which also states that. And apart from this, having a good web presence can not only have around 68% consumers come back to your site, but also entice about 80% of providers, both captive and independent, to place more business with your carriers as well. But let's take a step back and see what changes have recently occurred in the insurance industry that are driving these factors. Let's go to the next slide. Now it is primarily these four key changes or functions in the insurance industry that are kind of driving these trends that we discussed on the earlier slide. At the forefront, it's the consumer himself who has changed, who has become more empowered and informed, and which again is kind of a culmination of demographics, technology, and behavioral factors, which has kind of made him more empowered to take informed decisions. Interestingly, it's found that about 70% of Gen X and Gen Y consumers buy online. And with baby boomers at the verge of retiring, a major portion of consumers today are tech savvy, with need for instant access to information, whether it's on mobile, web, social, or any other channel for that matter. From a technology perspective as well, there are billions of internet users today, and as per Gartner, smartphone sales have already outdone PC sales by 25% this year. The consumers are also driven a bit by the behavioral factors, so with the perhaps by virtue of having access to things like social and other multiple sites, basically by being more connected, they have more faith in what your existing customers have to say about your product more than what your sales reps claim about. So that's also one behavioral factor which is kind of driving the overall consumer perception and buying behavior. Apart from this, the second important point is regulation, right? So due to the strict regulatory framework becoming even more stringent with this recent financial crisis that happened, the modalities of buying insurance have become even tougher, involving long cycle times and huge amount of paperwork with forms, government regulated processes, etc. And this creates an inherent need, to reduce this cost by digitizing this process with things like e-forms, e-claims, online integration with fraud and customer verification systems, etc., where again digital is playing a very important role. Coming over to competition, the number of insurance players has gone up drastically post the reforms, leading to increase in competition in the market, with companies leveraging digital for a change to create competitive advantage as well. So today, things like buying policies online, comparing quotes, policy recommendations are all means to not only sell more, but also to engage and eventually acquire new consumers. And this has a ripple effect towards changing technology as well. So today's consumers, they demand seamless experience on multiple channels. And the technology is evolving to support the marketeers to manage them effectively with integration of ecosystems of different technology blocks like the content management system, the CRM, decisioning engines, across various devices and channels to provide them that one web experience. The result of all this is a reduction in the over-dependence on a singular channel, as is shown on the next slide. So as you see, historically we have, from an insurance perspective, we have always focused on just one channel, which is the tied agency channel. But today we have a variety of options, such as direct in-person, captive, which is corporate agents, as well as brokers, carrier website, and even web aggregators. Now there are, traditionally, and even now to some extent, almost 70 to 80% of insurance is still being bought via the agent channels. So direct channels like online are gaining a share of this pie from 8% to around 10 to 12% today. But if you look closely, there are some few interesting observations that come out of this slide. Number one is that the preference for channel, if you see, varies across the buying cycle, with aggregators and internet sources, etc., being more important in the initial phases where the research and consideration of insurance products is happening. But as it moves towards the purchase part, direct interaction or emails become more dominant. If you also notice the first block of the buying phase, you would see that the carrier sites are a very important influence in this overall process, which means having the right kind of messages, which are targeted to various profiles, the right kind of buying tools, recommendation engines serve as a make or break to the overall experience, and the customer even moving ahead in the journey from this step to the next. The third important point is that the penetration of internet technologies is increasing, throughout the cycle with features like online communities, online chat. They are becoming very important for users to even research a product online, let alone, buying online. But yes, even though majority of customers or consumers eventually rely on an agent to make a purchase, there is also a minority which is emerging, of these users who prefer to buy online completely without any personal interaction, creating a new digital buying journey for insurance customers, which is what we'll see on the next slide. So this is the new buying journey, which is contrary to the traditional models of buying insurance. This one is completely online, where the user is kind of researching the product, is considering various options. He's going through the quote to buy process, as well as recommending or advocating the product after using it, and going through the after sales service product as well. So all of this is happening from a on a digital perspective. Now, digital can play an important role in this life cycle, but as an industry, there are two fundamental challenges, or rather opportunities for marketers in this life cycle, right? So one is how to create competitive advantage, and the other is how to educate the customers to be able to enable them to buy online. Now, from a website or portal perspective, we saw how carrier websites play an important role in this life cycle, right? So from a website perspective, there are sets of features we can have at each one of these stages that can catalyze this entire process. So in the first part of the journey, for instance, where the customer is just researching about a product, we can have relevant content, query assistance, decision support tools, things like agent or dealer locators, and interactive services to compare products, etc., which kind of helps the consumer take the right decision about which kind of policies he wants to zero down on. Once the user has selected which policy he wants to go for, we move over to the next phase of the cycle, which is the quote to buy process, where having tools like a quick quote process where he can quickly calculate the premiums, having integrated multiple payment options, and also cross-sell and upsell products during this phase can create a differentiator for the overall engagement. And also once this consumer has become your customer, once he's already bought your product, the cycle does not really end here. The most important part is what happens after, once the claim is raised, right? So also having features on a customer portal like tools for FNOL, which is the first notice of loss, for tools for tracking their claims, for timely notifications, and also for suggesting the next best product which is suitable for that particular consumer. We already saw that how customer retention can greatly increase or contribute in the overall profit. So suggesting or cross-selling products to this existing customer becomes very important, and having these kind of features really increases the customer engagement and acquisition process as well. But web overall is not enough. When a customer actually comes to buy online, there are other digital touch points which also come into picture. Let's see on the next slide. Now you would notice that in the actual scenario, the buying cycle is not really a linear but a cyclical process, meaning the end point leads to a cross-buy or a cross-sell opportunity as well. So even before a website comes into picture, the consumers usually Google it, to begin their digital journey. They search for insurance products online, and having the right kind of tactics starting from that search point to the website and beyond is what can really improve customer acquisition and engagement throughout this journey. So to start with, having the right search tactics employed at in the search channel, which is both organic, which is SEO, as well as the paid channels like SEM, search engine marketing, etc., can play an important role in making your website or your landing page or your social page, for that matter, come on the top of search results, and in turn drive the right amount of traffic to your website. Now, once the consumer lands on your site, having targeted messages for each kind of user profile along with reviews of other consumers, etc., can really make or break the overall brand perception and helps the users also to move towards the buy process. Now, once they are in the buying stage, having simplified product information, tools like product recommendation engines can catalyze the overall process. There's a research which shows that the key problem that users have during buying insurance online is that the products are very complex and they're not really transparent. The price is not transparent. So if we can take care of those aspects during the buying process, it really leads to a seamless experience. Once the product is being bought, so continuing that experience across channels by having mobile apps, let's say, to renew the policy or even raise a claim, etc., can further increase the brand perception for the consumer. And once they are convinced, once they become a loyal customer, providing tools for a feedback mechanism like ratings, reviews, customer blogs, testimonials, etc., for encouraging the user, for sharing their feedback with other users and attracting more acquisitions, it kind of closes the loop for the overall buying process. So with all of this, the goal is primarily to improve the cost efficiency ratio in terms of the analyzed premiums, right? So increasing the revenue as well as controlling the cost with this online channel. And digital helps in catalyzing this effort all along this entire journey. So to quickly sum it up in 3 points, number one, the consumer and the insurance landscape as a whole is changing. Number two, the digital element in itself provides an opportunity with the right tools and technologies like quote, online calculators, pre-fill forms, which greatly innovates the overall buying experience. And third, there are areas of opportunities for insurers to leverage this change and further improve the overall acquisition while also creating a competitive advantage. So with that, I would hand over to Abhiraj to talk about some of these areas of opportunities and also our point of view on how to move ahead in this scenario. Over to you, Abhiraj.
Thank you, Neha. So when we talk about areas of opportunity for insurers. We'd like to start this part of the session with taking a look at what the marketer's view is, what they really see, what they really need to focus on. All along this presentation so far, Neha has been talking about the importance of the buying life cycle. And we've kind of, taken the buying life cycle as the cornerstone, and understanding the audience and understanding how they are going to be buying is essential to any kind of strategy. So that's basically a touch point based approach that we've taken as a fundamental of this presentation. What you see here talks about the fact that the importance of engagement is paramount when we talk about improving demand or customer acquisition. Neha spoke about the importance of discovery as well, of how people look at insurers, how they go to aggregators and other third-party sites to do their research. But eventually they're going to be landing up on your website. And when they do land up on your website, they are coming in with some perception about you, and they want to kind of reinforce that perception. Or they might be led away as well if the perception does not get reinforced. So the role of the website in the entire engagement process, across the life cycle becomes paramount, and it's especially important in the middle stages when people are moving from awareness towards purchase. Now, at this point, it's important that marketing goals and KPIs are aligned to this life cycle. So if a marketer has a certain amount of budget for the next year, and if they're setting out their plans, creating their plans, working with their partners and vendors and internal teams to put together what they want to really do in 2014, a word of suggestion here is that the words engage should be topmost on your mind, because that's where the action happens on your own website. And the role of your website is even more in focus, because you're working with captive teams, you're working with brokers, with agents, with with your channel. What your website does is it acts as a two-way funnel. People who are approaching your brokers or your channels or other aggregators, they'll need to come to your site as well to reinforce their view of your brand and products. And the people who are coming to your website will need to be eventually funneled off to your channels or captive teams to help close the purchase. In either case, your website is front and center as far as the audience is concerned. And if we take these marketing goals and KPIs further and look at across these three major phases, let's say, of the life cycle, just search, decisioning, and empowerment. The key note here is about converting leads to customers. Acquiring more leads is a challenge, yes, and we do recognize that. And there are multiple ways in which you can acquire leads. But then converting those leads to customers is basically the role that your website is going to play. And again, it's going to be a variety of things that will help convert leads to customers. And we are going to be talking about a few of those as we go along today. And what I said a few moments back about your website being a two-way, a two-way centerpiece, so to say, is reaffirmed here. So, your agents might be using their own websites. They might be using their own social presence in some cases. They might be using other ways to reach out to customers. Eventually, they will be routed to your site, whether it's through your agency sites or any other form of interaction, or simply by an in-person meeting that your agent has. Ultimately, the audience is more likely than not to visit your website and see what you have to offer. As far as your outreach to customers is concerned, there's a variety of ways in you can do that. Whether it's through email campaigns, whether it's through any kind of outreach via your captive teams, whether it's phone, social, a variety of things that, that we kind of talked about in the multi-channel slide a few moments back. But the key thing is that it all rolls back to your site, and your site will be very important in terms of converting these leads to customers. Some of the things that are very, very critical here, and we'll cover those later as well, is the fact that is your site really in a position, is it in a position to really engage with all these leads, on a one-on-one basis, where you identify personas, you create their journeys on the website, and then you fashion and tailor the website experience in a way and content in a way that it speaks to those one-on-one personas. Unless that is being done, it's more like hoping and praying that somebody gets converted, more than backed by sound data and a sound approach. So the days of spray and pray are over. The website needs to be fashioned in a way that it uses the data at your disposal and is able to be modified to an extent that it speaks to each persona in your audience. So what is about customer engagement? And our perspective here is that the key indicators of all the research that we kind of walked you through, and other things that we keep studying about in this vertical, center around a few key points. Customer is changing channels while buying insurance. It could be through web, could be through mobile now, could be through agent interaction, could be through social. So a journey that can start with a social network might end with a transaction made on an agency site. And you can never really predict at this point. There are so many options available for somebody to actually go to your website on their iPad and then find out an agent there and in their location, and then speak to the agent to further their conversation. These kind of scenarios are becoming very rapid. So the changing of channels while buying insurance is a big phenomenon to address, or to talk about, or to think about. Social is influencing consumer decisions in a big way, and it will continue to influence them. Neha talked about the importance of your brand and your product and your thought leadership coming through on social, and how it can have an influence on how people perceive your brand and products to be. With more advanced, adoptions of social, a lot of trends indicate that, people are actually fashioning their products through social peer reviews and crowdsourcing. But within insurance, which is highly regulated, and compliance is, is always, at the back end of everything that you do, social can at least have an influence in terms of telling a consumer as to whether he or she should be sharing what they have seen or read about you with others. And that in itself is a big enough, it's a big enough change, in terms of influence. Consumers are also becoming more independent, but independent in the sense they want to do things themselves, and more so the millennials and the people, who really, are looking at Gen X and Gen Y audience here. But they are also expecting an agent-like consultative experience. So when you speak across the table with an agent, the experience that you get versus what you get online needs to be no different. And that is the expectation that most customers have today from insurers or carriers. A demand for greater simplicity and transparency, and we covered this as well some time back. And again, all of us understand the nature of insurance products, and the entire aspect of risk coverage, underwriting is something that is traditional to the industry. It will continue to sprout new products with greater benefits for customers, but they'll have riders attached. So the amount and nature of transparency that needs to be provided to customers in making purchase decisions can really vary from one product to the other. But having said that, over time, and now with so many options available and so many channels available to customers, there is an expectation that this transparency is heightened, and people get to know more about the product and its underpinning, in a very simple way. And it could be a challenge, of course, and it is a challenge. But the earlier people see the logic and the benefit in this, as far as carriers are concerned, the better it might be for them. Increasingly, what we've also found is that customers carry, they visit, a variety of, other industries, and while comparisons should be, really not made between one industry trend to the other, the key thing here is that we're expecting, a movement towards seeing, okay, and we kind of presented the comparison between buying a car and buying an insurance policy. Comparison is odious and shouldn't be made, but the consumers can't probably think that way, and they are talking about certain things on other sides. They're seeing other things on other sides and other industries, which they kind of come to expect, which is why it's given to the birth of concepts such as gamification, rewards, peer reviews, and bookmarking, from a social content perspective, and how it applies to an insurance business model. The very rise of these concepts within insurance tells us that these mental models that customers carry can have an impact on how you want to be perceived. And sooner or later, whether it's in a highly regulated way, you need to look at what you can do to improve your presence and improve your engagement with customers with regard to some of the models like gamification, and really encouraging the customer to share more and rewarding them for for the fact that they are sharing your content, your brand message, your product information with others, and recognizing that that is an important factor as far as you are concerned. So we have trends, and we'll always have some new trends or the other. The important thing is how people respond to it, how carriers respond to it, how their marketing teams really take this insight and make it work for them. So customers want simplicity. We talked about that. They want visibility into or greater transparency, and they also want control. And again, this particular slide we're talking or veering more towards Gen X and Y, but the key takeaways as far as we are concerned about your audience in general are that carriers need to understand who the customer is, segment them, and how are they going to be buying across different subsegments is what is very important to understand that. Be a consultant to the customer, yes. Suggest product in line with their needs, and again, when you segment to an extent that you know exactly what type of people are buying from you, what ages, what demographies, etc. You can actually segment products, and really suggest products in line with different people's needs. Even things like tenure of the product or the amount of premium that can be paid by one segment to the other, along with the product features, all those would be parameters in suggesting the right product. And how can you actually make the experience of selecting a product so much simpler, by providing all this information. Simplifying products, again, it's a very contentious term as far as we are concerned. We understand the nature of the industry, but by looking at gamification concepts and tying them to core data, and seeing how people can be rewarded for kind of having a peer sourcing of your products or your brand is something that can be looked at. There's no harm in doing that. You're not really going into the nature of the product. All you're saying is probably make the experience of finding out about a product much more easier and much more shareable, much more viral in nature. Connecting on multiple channels, we've covered this and we've talked enough about this, but it really needs to be stressed that digital spans the web, it spans mobile, it spans smartphones, it spans tablets, and really the consumers that are really looking at you and your product and your brand are all over the place. So connecting on multiple channels is very important, as far as your outbound communication is concerned. Enabling the right connect at the right time is often, the key to clinching a buy decision or a purchase decision. And, to that end, having a very sound understanding of what a particular prospect or a consumer might expect in terms of the purchase decision, whether it's the right decision to actually have your captive team or brokers go and talk to a particular prospect that you have been engaged with, or having your agents talk to somebody, is a decision that needs to be made by you, and you need to connect them with the right intermediary for different kinds of products, simply because some products may be more complex than the others. Encouraging dialogue between customers. So again, we talked about the social aspect here, and this just reiteration of that on what people really feel about your product, our products, and how have they been serviced in the past. Sharing and encouraging any kind of dialogue between that in a controlled way with certain products to start with probably could be a good idea to increase further engagement. Which brings us to probably the most important section in today's presentation, which is about how do you truly improve engagement and acquisition. Well, there could be a variety of ways to do this, and it's probably very much outside the scope of a presentation like this to cover everything that can be done. But again, I mean, there are different types of insurers and different types of businesses. Our idea or our approach is to talk about a way in which you can really fundamentally improve your acquisition and engagement by taking the right steps at the right time. So the first part of this is basically looking inward, and marketers can do this on the basis of what they have been doing, what kind of results have they been getting, what kind of numbers have they been generating, and what kind of impact in vis-a-vis brand or product recall that they have in terms of their varied audiences. And then there's the entire channel that you're working with. So various parameters that can help you gauge your performance, or how you've looked at and achieved your goals. But assessing your maturity level as a marketer or as a marketing team within insurance is arguably the first step towards really formulating any kind of a cohesive strategy for acquisition and engagement. And what we've done here is we've shown you a few representations, right? We've shown you about people who are really starting out in terms of digital. They could be classified as entry stage. They have basic website presence. Their KPIs are probably not traffic related. They're doing a lot of things. I mean, they have a website. They'll be doing newsletters. They'll have probably analytics embedded on their site, and they might be doing some search marketing as well. So yes, I mean, they're also running their businesses. They might be getting some leads. They might be making those leads into customers. But the difference between an entry stage and a tactical stage could be where your revenues are directly connected with your captive team performance or with your channels. So as soon as revenue comes into the picture, tactics become more intense. KPIs are tied to business growth, and as you can see, the elements that you can follow, or generally that we have seen being followed, include a lot of other things, than as compared to the entry stage. So you're trying to reach out more people through cross-channel, mobile probably. You're looking at trying to do analytics reporting across the different, channels you're on, whether it's web or mobile. You're trying to enable your sales team better through training, through getting them on a common platform, to trying to track what kind of numbers they're doing. And you're probably looking at more, in terms of demand creation, whether it's search or social marketing. And then there's the automation stage, and where it's a slightly more evolved marketing, marketing presence or marketing function, where you're talking about taking a website and really, making it work for different personas within your end audience, identifying those personas, identifying how they buy, and then trying to, optimize your site to really meet their needs at different stages, by different segments. KPIs are, tied to effective demand generation. Effective means generating good quality of demand and really being able to, feed your channels and your captive teams as applicable. A lot of other elements step in here, better campaign management. You probably should be using a really good content management system for your site. And then you should be using an email or a marketing automation tool to really get your message out to your audience basis their preferences. And as you go further, optimization stage is where we really want to be focused on. So 3 and 4 are the stages that we really want to be focused on and try and get people to be arriving at these stages sooner than later, because that's where you truly achieve the kind of revenue impact that as a marketer you should. Nurturing prospects and customers. So people who are coming to your site need to be nurtured right through before you transition them to your agents or your internal teams. KPIs are tied strictly to revenue and progress of leads. And it's an important point. Progress of leads can only happen when you have sufficient engagement so that people are able to keep moving further and happy to have a conversation with a sales agent at some point sooner than later. And then, we're talking about more advanced things or elements here like segmentation in your audience. We're talking about really deep dive analytics, which tells you what people are doing on your site, what kind of digital footprint are they leaving behind, targeting them according to the footprint that they're leaving behind on your site, and then measuring, how, your targeting is really helping. Is it really creating an impact on, the number of leads you're transitioning over to sales? And finally is the closed loop stage where you're taking offline experiences, integrating them with digital, looking at how your agents, your channels, your captive teams are interacting with your customers and prospects offline, and measuring and recording those conversations, those exchange of information, all of that needs to be rolled into a data model which is central to your offline as well as online integration. And then using that data to really target business growth. Every single conversation will lead to business growth if that closed loop stage is reached. We're talking about an integrated marketing machinery there, which includes digital and offline. We're talking about a data warehouse and predictive reporting, and a lot of other things that data will really sprout for you. If you have a wealth of data and it's being mined properly, and you have the right kind of reporting tools, then you can really segment, target, and profile every single prospect and customer that you interact with, whether it's on digital or offline. So assessment of the maturity level is important, and that assessment really lends itself to the next step, which is about creating a digital marketing strategy. And this is where the entire thing comes together. If this stage is not done properly, it'll have a big impact on anything that you do after. So we are very firm proponents of the fact that you need to understand your customer, whether it's an identified prospect, it's an anonymous prospect, or an existing customer. You need to understand. And you can do further segmentation. For the sake of simplicity, we've kept it to just 3 personas here and talk through that. But obviously these can change by vertical and by message that you want to convey. The other important thing is, once you've identified personas, you need to map their buying journeys across different channels. So you have web, you have mobile, you have physical purchases, you have social. What are they doing across each of these? You need to understand that and understand their buying journeys. Data plays a big part here, but it's also important to analyze and record what they're doing at every step of their interaction with you. So analytics plays a big role in helping to map out buying journeys. And then we talk about determining what touch points do you want to reach to. You might not have a mobile strategy at this point, but you might want to visit it later. So it's important to determine what really you have a budget for and what really is important to you at this point or going forward in terms of outreach, whether you want to restrict yourself to web and email, or you want to reach out to social, you want to include partner sites, etc. And then creating a content strategy and a content map which is aligned with the buying life cycle of each of your personas. And this is often easier accomplished once you have all your content assets in place and you have the buying journeys mapped out. But if that's not the case, then creating a content strategy would be a very onerous task, because you simply don't know what piece of content about which product will resonate with which segment or which audience persona. And the next step is, we have a wealth of technology at your disposal. Some of you will have a lot of these, some of you will not have a few of these, but it's important to keep moving in the right direction. So after you've done the entire strategy mapping exercise and looked at your audience and what content you have to offer, which channels do you have to offer it on, you need to look at how technology can enable you to do that. And there's a variety of technologies, there's a variety of tools and methods to do that. But some important things that come to mind is that, first of all, you need to broaden your reach to devices. So responsive design is very important if you're planning to upgrade your website now or in the near future, or if you want to take your existing site and make it visible to people on devices as a one website experience, not a curtailed site or a mobile site, then this is a very important factor. The next is, we talked about targeting experience. So having the right kind of analytics tool or marketing automation in place is very important, because that will truly give you how your people are reacting on your site, how they're responding to different pieces of content, to different sections, to different product features, to different engagement tools, functionalities, and calculators that you have in your site. In-depth digital body language is what we're talking about here. What are people really doing on their site? What kind of footprint are they leaving behind? And how can you really serve relevant content by recognizing their IP, recognizing their click stream, and the next time that they come in, you are able to serve them the right content and experience too. So there's different kinds of targeting that we can really achieve through a mixture of the right analytics and the right tools serving content on your website. Demand generation is extremely important. We talked about the importance of how engagement really leads to better acquisition, and defining how you will engage with the traffic that you generate is very, very important, because that traffic will travel through your website. If they don't really find what will be engaging enough for them, they will drop away in the middle of the journey. So for you to be really able to make that demand generated count, you need to be present as they traverse the life cycle, including your website. Determining the right lead qualification criteria is very important. It's important to score your leads, have the right kind of criteria for scoring, have the right kind of criteria for distribution as well. So there are certain types of leads that you would want your agencies to go after, and there are certain other leads, probably where there are more complex products. You might want your captive team or an advisor or an internal agent to be doing the talking to a prospect. So to you, it's important to have the intelligence before transitioning any lead over to your channel or internal teams, that that a certain type of lead needs a certain type of closure or purchase or purchase process, and therefore needs to be distributed to the right person in the channel or your captive team. Content management is the other important aspect, and especially related to your site. It plays a big role in what kind of content you serve to whom, at what channel, and at what time. So the right and appropriate content management tool can really make it easy for you to be multi-channel, and all the mapping and persona identification that you saw in the previous slide can really be put to good effect and be executed by a contemporary content management system residing under your website. And again, this system can also enable you to present any kind of messages that would have people react, respond with specific actions as next steps, which is always a very good sign towards moving a lead forward in buying life cycle. And finally, we talk about continuous improvement and monitoring with lead scoring and nurturing. So we try to capture whatever we've spoken about so far, in the past 3 slides, and try to create a holistic journey for you here. So starting out from identifying personas to progressively profiling people on your site. As people come into your site, they can, give you willy-nilly information, small tidbits that you can keep capturing as the data profile builds. You don't need to have them fill out a large form right at the outset. They can do it in bits and parts, and you'll have enough information as they travel through the site. So, capturing that data and then personalizing the experience and content on your site basis the data that you're capturing. Mapping of content, we talked about that, to be served at each stage of the life cycle for every persona identified. Have all your data in a CRM, preferably, or other systems like your content management system for scoring, lead scoring, and transition. And this is especially important because, like I said, what type of leads do you transition to what type of agents or captive teams is equally important in terms of hitting the right revenue numbers and ensuring that you transition the right demand. So all of it hopefully will lead to handing over more sales-ready leads to captive teams or agents, and that's the entire idea behind engagement, because that's what truly is going to drive revenue when you have more closures, and more closures can only happen when there are more sales-ready leads for closure. That's all that we have for today. Big thank you to all of you for joining in, and we can take any questions at this point. I think we have a couple of minutes, so we can take a quick question or two, and then we can take the remaining questions, after the session.
Okay, we do have a lot of questions, but since we are running out of time, we'll only be able to take a couple of questions today, and we'll get back to all the unanswered questions after the webinar via email. So I'll just take the first question for now. What kind of matrix should we develop to get analytics around the buying life cycle?
That's a good question. So the buying life cycle, and we talked about the importance of capturing digital body language. When we talk about the buying life cycle and people coming to your website and spending time, you may not know at what stage they are. They might be at the evaluation stage or the search stage. We talked about the different stages again. But if you truly want to have cross-channel analytics, then you would want to have most of your bases covered. So let's say if you are using social presence, if you're using search marketing, if you're using mobile, and of course you're using a website, if you have analytics embedded across each of these channels, then when somebody who's been interacting, let's say, with your social presence comes to your site, you will already have analytics in place that will tell you about that, and that analytics will also tell you, what they have done on your social site. So once they come onto the site, your systems underneath the site already know some background about a prospect. In certain other instances, they may not know at all because you don't have any interaction, so you don't have any analytics. But wherever possible, you need to have analytics across your different channels of outreach, so that there's a composite picture available to every prospect that's hitting your website. Once they're on the website, you can capture their digital footprint proactively through every step. So if they're going from page 1 to 2, or going to a product page, or going to a calculator, all of that can be recorded by your analytics tool, and a clickstream journey, or a gradual journey through the site can be recorded and kept. So the next time this visitor comes to your site, you will know their background from earlier interactions. You will know the data that, of the analytics report that they have left behind on your site, and therefore you can make the presentation and content much more relevant for that particular prospect when they come next time around. So the importance of metrics is basically to help you engage better with the prospect. And that can only happen if you're capturing their footprint across channels and capturing, their footprint on your website as well, progressively as they keep, going from one page to the other.
Okay, Viraj. The next question is, we want to nurture prospects who have some sort of engagement with us on a regular basis. Can we also get to know their most preferred channel of engagement through analytic insights?
Yes, of course, and that's a very, very good question, and especially, useful for people who are doing multiple things through marketing, using multiple channels. So I think it has some relation to the last question that I answered as well, where I talked about the importance of cross-channel analytics. And if you really want to measure what channels are your customers or prospects interacting with most, you need to have analytics tying back to every initiative that you do. So web, email, social, mobile, everywhere that you're reaching out to prospects, you need to measure how they're responding back through analytics, through opens of read-throughs of your email campaigns, through any kind of interaction that they're showing. And again, the key thing here is that if let's say you're running a lot of email campaigns, and you might be thinking that those are working for you, but the way to know it is when people are actually not just reading about reading the emails that you send, but what are they doing after that? Are they clicking through and coming to a landing page? Are they spending time on that landing page or on your website page? And then once they're spending time there, what are they doing? Are they downloading anything? Are they getting in touch with an agent? Are they trying to find an agent, etc.? So their actions after they have read through your email and clicked through and come to a landing page or a website are equally important to track. So analytics does not end, once you have background information about a prospect and what they have been doing on your social site or on your mobile site. In fact, it starts there. It will end only when it leads to a stage where that prospect gets started talking to a salesperson on your team or on your channel. So the importance of analytics cannot be understated. So it cannot be overstated rather. So cross-channel analytics, I think, is the first step. Measuring every interaction is the second step, and then measuring what steps is your prospect taking towards engaging further with you is the third step. Once you have these three steps in place, then you can really nurture, because then you have so much more information about what a prospect is doing on your website, or on your landing pages after having seen or read about you through a variety of things, whether it's social, email, web, or mobile.
All right. There are a few more questions, but we'll have to get back to them after the webinar. At this note, we'll have to end today's webinar. I would like to thank everyone for attending our webinar. We hope you found it informative. The recording for today's webinar will be available on our website within next 3 business days. We'll also be sharing the webcast URL with all the attendees via email. Please feel free to reach out to us at contact@edynamic.net for any further questions you might have. Thank you once again. Thank you, Abhiraj. Thank you, Neha.